Let's get analysis on this from Chris Doyle. He's in London. He's a Middle East commentator and director at the Council of Arab-British Understanding. Appreciate you coming on, Chris. In terms of Donald Trump's role, so we have Israel attacking Iran. Do you think that Donald Trump is going to pour fuel on the flames? Is he going to put out the fire, or is he going to just let this fire burn for as long as it suits him?
You're asking somebody to predict what Trump is going to do. I think we have sort of indications, but nothing particularly concrete. And that's always the problem with dealing with this Trump administration, because you're not really sure that there is a joined up strategy. But based on what we have seen and heard, I think he's more likely to try to move towards some sort of negotiations and to push that rather than exacerbate the situation, which is already extremely dangerous. I mean, be mindful that the economic implications for the United States, let alone the rest of the planet, are huge, because if the US does get involved, the chances that the Iranians will then strike neighbors, their oil infrastructures, they could attempt to block or at least impede passage of oil and gas through the Straits of Hormuz. All of that means that it would damage Trump's domestic agenda. I think also he has held back. You heard from Steve Bannon there and Rand Paul. There are significant elements of his base who don't want him to go near this conflict. They don't want him to get the United States involved. And I think that's really ideally where he would like to be. But against that, the Israeli leadership has every vested interest in doing everything to try to provoke the United States to get stuck in, to join them, because I think it is quite clear, for example, to take out the nuclear facilities at Fordow, the very, very deeply fortified base, it would require the American bunker busting bombs. And that is, something that Netanyahu will be acutely aware of. I think all this talk from the Israeli leadership about regime change in Iraq and getting rid of the supreme leader is highly fanciful in terms of trying to bring this war to a close or collapse that regime. I think the regime is going to be more robust than that, and it would certainly survive the assassination of the supreme leader.
Do you think, I mean, they have such a strong connection, it seems, US, Israel, and, Trump and Netanyahu seem to coordinate pretty much on most things that happen in the Middle East. Do you think this was all part of the plan? Israel comes in and attacks, and the US then comes in and acts the role of peace broker? Or are we led to believe, do we really believe that Donald Trump didn't know anything about this and he's just reacting to situations?
Well, it could be somewhere in between. I'm not sure that the evidence points to Trump being part of a big coordinated strategy where we're all being played, imagining that the United States wasn't really that keen on it. I think his position is more in line with his traditional standpoint of being averse to getting involved in wars in the Middle East. As I said, much of his base. But of course, once Israel determines to go down that line, the United States, if not openly backing, is involved. It does supply the weapons. It clearly will be involved in the defense of Israel against ballistic missile attacks. But I think that we're not yet at a point where the United States is going to engage in an aggressive fashion on Iranian targets. And I think that one should be careful about seeing how close Trump and Netanyahu are. There are actually significant areas of disagreement that we have seen over the last 6 months. The fact that the US opened up direct talks with Hamas, the ceasefire deal with the Houthis, differing positions on Syria. And indeed, of course, Netanyahu never wanted those talks that have been taking place, the 5 rounds of talks in Oman, that would have continued on Sunday were it not for the Israeli attacks. So there is really quite a significantly different approach. And I think the real question is Trump really prepared to rein in Netanyahu? Can he rein in Netanyahu? Because it has been the Israeli leader who has basically ignited fires across the region, attacking Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, Iran, and each and every level, when he had other options, he's escalated.
Does Iran still have cards to play here? Does it have the ability to force the other side to the negotiating table in terms of the fact that it is penetrating the air defense systems in Israel? We are unusually seeing people die there and destruction happen. And then there is the chaos that potentially it could cause to shipping lanes in the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, Iran has capabilities. It depends somewhat on how successful those Israeli strikes have been in taking out those missile systems, the launchers, and degrading Iran's ability to sustain a longer term, series of missile strikes on Israel. Now, there are obviously going to be limitations on Israel's ability to keep on knocking those Iranian missiles and drones out of the sky. And I think that comes back to our earlier point to what extent the United States comes in to defend Israel from such missile strikes. But I think Israel has the upper hand. It has more cards to play with. Iran's options are far more limited. And if it does over-escalate and it hits Israel too hard, if there are too many civilian casualties, well, too many, if there are a large number of civilian casualties, then of course that risks what Iran doesn't want, of sucking the United States in. So its options are constrained by the knowledge that fighting in Israel on its own is one thing, but against the United States as well is an entirely different and very dangerous ballgame for Iran.
Chris, appreciate speaking to you. My guest, Middle East commentator Chris Doyle there. Thank you.